there's training the jab and training the fucking thing and slipping and doing all this kind of fun stuff. I just think like, yeah, it's it's true. Like people who train, there's just levels to it. But I don't think just because we let go when somebody taps doesn't mean that rear naked choke doesn't cut off the blood to the brain and destroys and kills people. Like in fact, there's even different modified guillotines where I could decide if I'm going to take the blood choke and be nice or just crush your trachea and kill you. It's like there's options if you know them. And I just don't think, I mean, I agree, like Navy SEALs and shit, like they'll probably fuck somebody up when it comes down to fucking like close quarter combat for sure. But I don't know, one on one, equally weighted, the classical MMA guy is going to get them. I've choked out Navy SEALs before. I've choked out, like all kinds of levels of people in the military and whatever. So, I mean, it happens. And I'm a little, I'm not even a big guy.
Yeah, because even if it's a fight to the death and like anything goes, if you have never trained takedown defense, 90% of those, like, oh, I'm going to do this special thing where I like twist your nuts or something, that doesn't work when you don't know how to repel somebody taking it to the ground, controlling where the fight happens. And all of a sudden, you can't do any of these like special things because you're on the ground and your head hit the concrete.
I like the story of Boss Rutan, who said he saw these, like, it was like these ninjas, like, dojo stormed his place. And they were sitting there watching it. And the guy was like, well, that wouldn't work because if you had me in the rear naked choke, I'd reach back and poke your eyes out. And Boss Rutan was like, really? He's like, okay. He's like, come. He's like, I'll hook you up. You know what I mean? I'll set you up in the rear naked choke. When I say, we'll go on 3 and you poke my eyes out and kill me. And he goes, and if you touch my eyeballs, I'm going to break your neck. Okay. Ready, set. And fucking the ninja guy was like, because once if a rear naked choke properly put on a motherfucker, I just, you're not going to poke anyone's eyes out.
Okay, so one of the things that I was taught when I was going through my hand-to-hand combat training in the military was if you don't have a knife or something or a handgun or whatever else, and your opponent does, like they have a knife as an example, you use anything at all. Like a stick, grab a handful of sand, or anything. But that doesn't exist in the UFC.
Yeah, and at this point, a lot of the the fighting discourse gets humbled by anybody with a knife can kill you at any point, and there's really not a lot of ways to like defend against it, especially if like they're not immediately being aggressive or not trying to provoke you. Like if you're just randomly in a bar, somebody can walk up nonchalantly and like within half a second stab you in the neck and then walk away before anybody even sees anything. And nobody is even looking at the guy who just stabbed you. Like it's really, really bad or really intense how in the same way that the Navy SEAL gets humbled by the professional MMA fighter, everybody gets humbled by the knife.
Yeah, and to that same point, the MMA fighter is not going to be able to work as a coherent team with a group of Navy SEAL or MMA fighters in order to actually clear a house or a building properly, sort of like the SWAT team. Yeah, MMA, no, they can't do that. They're not trained for it. But the Navy SEALs are. And Navy SEALs are also trained how to dive and how to go airborne and how to run on sand and all these different types of situations. But it's just, they're different. So I'm sorry to say, if anyone thinks that your average Navy SEAL is going to beat the average MMA fighter, professional MMA fighter, it's not going to, most of the time, MMA wins. Because they are trained to deal with different situations. It's like their job. They're not trained to fight in the cage, and then again, they're also not trained to fight in combat.
Yeah, like if I had beef on my block, like I'd rather have 5 Navy SEAL buddies. You know what I mean? Than like, 5 MMA guys who are pretty good at like that's for sure. It's like I'm
Well,
trying to
yeah, 'cause the
secure
Navy
my
SEALs probably
fucking
are.
yeah, yeah. Like
They have
I don't
all the ammunition you need.
right. I don't need to
Probably.
see somebody in a black gi, like in a gi walking around. I need to see like somebody located at a point and using their lingo.
Yeah, when people are doing things that they've trained and the training is competent, people are going to be good at what they've trained. There is some carryover in things like doing Navy SEAL training is going to make you better than the layman athletic person at fighting. And there are certain things in MMA that can transition over into thinking tactically for an engagement, for like, you know, storming a house or something. But it's not going to be as good as training the actual thing.
Yeah, it's not just Navy SEALs because that's Navy SEALs have a very big hype up, but there's also other people such as Delta Force, Force Recon, PJs, and these other special forces units in the military. But still, when it comes to the MMA, yeah, those guys, that's what they do. They fight hand to hand, one on one. That's not what the Navy SEALs and special forces do. They train as a team, and in certain situations, they may be required to fight one on one. But it's that training is designed to not use rules, such as choking is allowed, gouging the eyeballs, biting, scratching, all these different things. Yeah, there's no holds barred. But in the MMA, that's a little different. There are rules. And just I need to get going pretty soon here, but when I was going through my hand-to-hand combat training, what they did was they made us PT, physical training, a lot. It was like 2 hours straight, like running, push-ups, jumping jacks, just constantly until you got so exhausted. And then they brought us back into the area where we were, like the fighting area inside the building, and had us put on the headgear and the gloves and all that kind of stuff. And they said, "All right, um, now that you're all PT'd out, you're basically at muscle fatigue. Like, all right, fight." And it was like, yeah, go for it. No spitting, no biting, no eye gouging, nothing like that. It was like MMA rules. And then they were watching us, and then they would go through and show us like the correct techniques to use and things like that. But ultimately, it was about learning how to properly stand and not. By the way, the reason they PT'd us so hard was so that we weren't able to hit very hard. Because at that point, you're just like, fuck this. You almost want to give up. Ultimately, what happened was, for me, it was pretty simple because I was already a wrestler. And what I learned from it was, yeah, if you have full energy, you can do some major damage very quickly. Very quickly. If you know what you're doing. It's about a 3-step process. Closing the gap, tripping, punching, and you can kill someone in about 15 seconds.
I'll post in the chat the thing I was talking about. This Gracie guy.
Please, Gracie?
Well, I'll post it in the thing. You can watch the video. Anyway, the point is the guy's he's wrestling like an NFL guy who's clearly a lot heavier, a lot bigger, and he's playing around with him like it. Look, I mean, this is obviously not a street fight where anything goes. But the point is that he's literally the more knowledgeable person in this art of grappling. He's just toying around with this dude who outweighs him by God knows 50 or 100 pounds. I suspect it's a lot. And yeah, it's just interesting to watch. You're like, holy shit. And you can see, like, from the NFL stars, the guy, whatever, what's his name? I don't know his name. But anyway, you can see that he's trying his best, but at some point he just hits the wall where he's fucked. And like I say, he's just toying with him. I mean, I hadn't had any experience of this whatsoever, but I did just briefly grapple with somebody who's just not, I wouldn't even say he was some kind of expert. He was just somebody who trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on a regular basis. And fucking his hands, I couldn't believe it. When he grabbed me, I was like, holy shit. Like, his hands were like, it's
the
great.
Gracie brothers are very, very famous for knowing how to use this thing called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And the concept of it is to make your opponent get more tired than you. So it's about like body momentum and stuff like that, which makes a lot of sense because if no one's ever been in a fight before or wrestled or anything like that, you get tired really fast. It's more tiring than running a mile.
Yeah, that's a big thing that differentiates the person who's trained for a little bit versus the person who's trained for a long time is how much energy they use for the movements that they do. Because when you're new, you often like tense up for every single little thing. Whereas as soon as you get more and more used to it, you start using less and less energy to do a particular move. And that's where like the ability and cardio comes from.
Yeah, but the cardio kind of stuff, it doesn't suck to say it. You can train and train and train all you want, but when you're fighting, there's no amount of lung strength that you have that is going to make you last that long. I don't care if they're a marathon runner or whatever else. It's a completely different style of training entirely.
Yeah.
So-
Anything where you have somebody who is aggressing against you, stressing you, is infinitely more tiring.
Yeah, so in collegiate wrestling that I was in, it's only 2-minute periods. There's 3 2-minute periods. That's it. So it's 6 minutes in total. And by the time you're done, it's like I could have just ran 4 or 5 miles. And I wouldn't have been as tired after that 4 or 5 miles as I would be in that 6 minutes. It's exhausting. And you can watch this with professional boxers like Mike Tyson and things like that. Yeah, they start off super high energy, but by period 2 or 3, yeah, they're exhausted already. They're moving every single part of their body. Same thing in UFC. It doesn't matter how good a physical condition they're in. They get tired. You can't stop that from happening. But yeah, anyways, yeah, the Gracie brothers, and I think there's like 5 of them, something like that. Anyways, I saw one of the Gracie fights versus Frank Shamrock, who's the guy that I signed up for his. I never actually met him, but I signed up in San Jose, California. My buddy and I, we went there and we took a 6-month course on American combat wrestling. It's wrestling, but without rules, essentially. Basically, how to kill people. And what we found out was like, yeah, it's the same thing. Is that those doesn't matter what technique you're using, whether it's boxing or wrestling or jiu-jitsu, it sucks because of how exhausted you get. When it comes to the Gracie brothers, they have figured out how to bring it to the ground. That's where they want the fight to go. And then they win. And I saw Frank Shamrock actually beat the fuck out of one of the Gracie brothers only because he did a flying, like it was over in like 15 seconds. It was like the final fight. Everyone was like all disappointed. Only because he jumped up really fast and just fly punched the Gracie brother and just knocked him out. And then it was over. But aside from that, if it were to go to the ground, Frank Shamrock probably would have lost. And that's all I have to say for now. I need to get off pretty soon.
What up, guys? Clearview, what's up, bro?
What's up, Cuddles? How's your morning?
A mixed bag as always.
What time is it for you? You don't mind me asking?
It's like 8:40 something.
Yeah, same for me. West Coast.
Right on.
Yeah, man, I had a terrible fucking sleep. Basically didn't
Well,
sleep all night. I think I'm getting something. I don't know what I'm getting, but I'm getting something.
I got to the West Coast, bro, but I didn't even get to dip my toe in the water because I had shit to do.
Damn.
Bro, went all the way to what, like a mile to the water? But I was there for business and not for leisure.
I take it you don't get many opportunities to go over there.
Bro, I've been avoiding the West Coast for a long time. The most part of the West Coast that I want to see is all of Hawaii, and that's it.
That's not the West Coast.
Well, maybe somebody get it, maybe somebody won't. It's okay.
It's about as west as you can go before it starts becoming east.
Well, it's not the West Coast. That was the whole point. I don't want to go to the West Coast ever.
I knew you were far left, Cuddles.
Yeah, somebody's hot micing.
Yeah, I'm trying to find my headphones.
What's the topic? What are we doing?
Cryptocurrency.
Let's go. How the fuck does Coinbase win the lawsuit and Ripple's still freaking in court? I don't understand that.
I probably try to explain it, but I don't want that whole I don't understand thing to come back and bite me, so I'm good. I'll just keep my mouth shut on this one.
I'm hearing sometime in March or April from what Hogan was saying. Shit took a little dip. I just did a little buyback. So go.
You know what I don't understand is why the phone noise suppression doesn't seem to work at all till I hook it up to headphones.
Thought you said you don't want to hear anything about it. I don't understand, and then that's the first thing you say.
No. I'm talking about with law and court and having to explain how something is one way because we don't have enough information in public school about court and how it operates. So most people don't know nothing about court. So obviously,
Well, it's designed
be
that
like
way. It's intentional.
be
It's not
like
like
be like
by
speaking
design.
Chinese to you. You don't know Chinese, so why would I speak Chinese? I'd have to teach you Chinese because you
It's set
didn't
up
learn it.
that way so that you have to rely on somebody else to advocate for you.
Well, now that's the structure of the school system. There you
I don't think
go.
it's an I don't think it's an issue with the school system. I think it's an issue with the courts. I think the
Are you sure
courts,
about that?
yeah, I think the courts have set it up in such a way intentionally so that the lay person doesn't know what's up and down, doesn't know what's going on, and they have to again rely on someone else to advocate for them, and that somebody else has got a bias being involved with the court system themselves. So it's all by design, has nothing to do with the school system or the lack of the individual. It's the intentional what's the word I'm looking for? No, I'll just leave it out.
I don't know, man. Because if you ask most people, right, how to quote unquote legally start their own business, they're all going to tell you the same thing. You go down and you get a DBA. You apply at the comptrollers. You know, give them your $20. That's not the only way. That's what school does. That's what public school does. The way it's set up right now, people don't actually know much of anything.
Are we talking about court
Everybody
or are we
acting
talking
like
about
you do.
business? I don't know. I'm confused now.
Just in general, the school doesn't prepare you for any of this stuff. Most of it doesn't, and most people don't learn on their own these things because it's too complicated. The
Well,
corporate business law.
well,
It's
that goes
not
back.
simple.
That goes back to Daislow's point that you're relying on the school system now to teach you stuff like that. As in, like you're saying, Daislow, like court, they rely on the lawyer, right, to know your rights. But you're kind of doing the same thing with school. You're relying on school to teach you the rights. You're relying on somebody.
Well, I mean, if your parents sent you to school, they didn't want to teach you, or they couldn't, right? Or they didn't know how, or whatever, right? Ad infinitum, take your pick. Everybody's situation's different. But now you're at public school learning what somebody that your parents don't even know is wanting to teach you. And then something happens, and everybody thinks one thing's about one thing, but they never. What's a good example? The Jehovah's Witnesses was a good case, right? Or there's the so-called abortion case. It's not even about abortion. It was about adoption. Oh, they overturned Roe v. Wade. Yeah, but did any of you read the case file? No. They think it's about abortion. The lady was trying to adopt a kid.
Are you attorney, Cuddles?
It's funny.
Or a
No, I
business
just
owner?
read. Just know how to read,
Parent?
bro. I just read. Not special.
Right.
Right? We all
Well,
learned how to read in school, didn't we?
come on. Who reads the terms and services here? Come on. You just agree.
I read that little fine print at the bottom of the page. That stuff makes me giggle every time. Because I had dictionaries when I was little, and I know what a lot of those words mean.
So when you get your car loan, you read all the terms and services? Were you there for 5 hours reading it all?
Oh no, bro. You got me mixed up with somebody else. Cash and carry. See, I don't have this whole credit thing. I don't play in the realm of fantasy. Pay cash, you give me title, MCO, and I go home. I don't do none of that financing crap with anything. If I can't afford it, I wait until I can.
Well, it's still paying cash. You're still signing a bunch of paperwork. It's not just, here, give me the title.
Right, but I'm not giving up any rights. Right? When you finance something, you're giving away rights, and in that financing contract, which I did a long time ago, right? Errands or any, furniture store, whatever, right? Appliances, whatever, something to make it simple to get it so you can just stay above water. Been there, done that. But you transfer rights because you're not the holder. You're
Well,
the
you asked the
holder
question.
of the interest.
You asked the question why people don't read. Like, I know a lot of people don't not read. Don't even read the fucking contracts they're signing.
Correct. And then
Well,
you get to court and they, well, did you understand? Well, absolutely. Well, hold on. You
yeah.
didn't read it, did you? No.
Well,
So how do
there's
you understand something you never read? But
Okay, so like I have an issue with school, right? Like you're saying, public school. They hand you a handbook, right? They're assuming that you're gonna read it and then you sign it. There is no test. There is no study group to study that handbook. You know, when the school gives you a handbook, the list of the rules, they don't even study that. Their own rule books. There's no test about it, studying about it, a whole class about that handbook. No, that's kind of like them
Do
too.
you know? Do you know who designed the modern education system back in 1903? It was the
Rockefeller.
Rockefellers. Hmm. So you've got
I know
a
exactly.
yeah. So you've got a really rich family of people that want to keep the rest of the population controllable and working and unable to think for themselves. Only know they don't know how to think, they only know what to think. And what they think is what they've been told. So it's literally an indoctrination camp to create
Hey, bro.
workers, a worker class, a working class. That's all it is.
I remember the class in public school that taught me about the Constitution and about the police powers that are inherent in me from my creator. Oh, wait. Crap. They didn't teach me any of that in school. I had to read for my. You
All
don't you
right.
don't rely on other people, but when something happens, you call AAA or you call the police. If this happens, you call the police. If that happens, if somebody makes a noise, if the cat meows too loud, call the police. It's like, dude, the whole idea behind that was to keep people in a mindset where they rely on other people all the time to do everything. It's not like I can do everything myself, but there are people that have made technology to make things easier, like living off grid. So,
What's the topic though? Because like I don't know, I feel like we're all over the place.
Reading.
Is it reading? That's the topic.
reading, learning, ability to learn.
Read the
There's a
rainbow.
lot on the table.
What are you learning about right now, Cuddles? What's your new subject that you're working on?
Well, I wanted to go to college for CNC machining. Back when I went to college for welding, and well, I could do one or the other, couldn't do both because I had too many responsibilities back then. And now I have a CNC machine, so my new study focus is learning how to use this machine.
Did you read the manual?
Are you learning to read CAD? Is that what you're doing?
Oh, here's what's awesome. It came with the original manual from 1988.
All right.
That's
So what are you gonna
awesome,
do?
bro.
What are you gonna do with the CNC?
Well, first I got to read the manual, then I've got to test the electrical system, see what's operational, what's not functioning, so on and so
Well,
forth.
given that
Diagnosis.
it all works, what's your plan?
Oh, dude, I got to start getting programs put on the laptop, start designing parts I need for, like, I need some bearing holders and an adapter plate for the wheelbarrow. I got a pile of scrap, so let's go. I need a lot of different things. Now I can make them. I don't have to go to the store or wait for somebody to invent the part.
All right. Well, I thought this was going
Crank on the
somewhere bigger.
generator. Oh. I mean, why public school is bad is a pretty big banner. It's a pretty good topic.
So
Because
what?
we can come up with a billion reasons.
You're advocating for trade schools or machine learning?
I'm I'm advocating for private membership association, erudite systems. Erudite is knowledge, knowledge systems. Learning. Education is training of animals. The word originated in animal husbandry, has nothing to do with advanced learning. It's training you to do a task for a treat. And that's it. And the task is whatever the guy running the school, whoever the board members decide the curriculum, whoever's running that curriculum. That's it. That's the trick they want you to do. I mean, how is private education not a thing, right? How is everybody not wanting it?
Because we want somebody to pay for it.
Well, I'll give you an answer most people aren't going to come up with. Yeah, and I've actually heard this one out of parents. Oh, I went to public school and I had to suffer. They might as well too.